Hello friends, Jules here from FGS, and even though we might be looking at our pudgy post-Christmas waistlines and thinking of slimming down for the summer, why not slap a delicious Easter egg right in there before we get our sweat on for one last hurrah? Well, luckily for you, we have 10 to drop down your gullet that can be found in video games that only recently dropped onto the market. Well, technically we only have 9, because the final entry is actually made up from a community comment. That is right, they are back, my friends. And this week we have Sora Hearts for their suggestion, which will be making its way to your ears and eyes in this very video. And if you want to be part of next week's list, then have a think about what you'd pick as the exact moment you realized that a game that you were playing absolutely sucked. But for now, let's focus on some secrets and hidden content. As I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are the 10 greatest Easter eggs hidden in recent video games. Number 10, Test Zero, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So let's kick things off with one hell of a deep cut from Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. In Chapter 8, players can head to the Beast Battleground and eventually end up fighting a hound-like creature known as Test Zero. Now, die-hard Final Fantasy VII fans will likely be aware that this is an inside baseball nod to a test creature of the very same name that was accidentally left in the original version of Final Fantasy VII way back in 1997. In the West, the test enemy could typically only be fought through hacking, though the Japanese version of the game allowed players to battle the creature legitimately. We say battle, but Test Zero didn't actually fight back against the player at all. Hilariously, the enemy intel for Test Zero in Rebirth offers up a cheeky reference to its inadvertent inclusion in the original game, noting that the creature escaped from Shinra's R&D division due to a developer oversight. Number 9, Comic Sans, Silent Hill 2. Bloober Team's recent Silent Hill 2 remake contains an ultra-specific tip of the hat to anyone who suffered through the monstrosity that is Konami's Silent Hill HD Collection, which was released for the PS3 and Xbox 360 in 2012. The remaster collection was widely criticized for its technical issues and artistic changes, with Silent Hill 2 HD infamously featuring a sign for Silent Hill Ranch that was written in the notoriously gaudy font Comic Sans, which looks hilariously out of place in the eerie world of Silent Hill. Though the recent remake appears to have replaced the sign with a more fitting font, PC players soon discovered that they could clip inside a nearby warehouse to find the original Comic Sans sign laying around in the trash. Right where it belongs then. As deep cut references go, that is pretty wild, but props to Bloober Team for commemorating an undeniable sliver of Silent Hill iconography in glorious 4K. Number 8, what the hell is cosplay? Tekken 8. And so we come to Sora Hearts' suggestion, and it's one that is especially close to our hearts here at FGS because it actually centers around a friend of the channel and longtime Final Fantasy superfan. That's right, it's Ben Starr, who not only hosts a slew of our showcases here, but also voiced Clive Rossfield in both Final Fantasy 16 and, more recently, in Tekken 8, as Clive now steps into the ring to throw down some fists. But not before he also throws a few telling barbs to his opponents, which is where the subtle and cheeky Easter egg comes in. Alongside getting opponents confused for relics and magical items back in his homeland, Clive also has a pretty badass exchange with Reina, who comments that his armor and appearance makes for some killer cosplay. Confused by the exchange, Clive responds in a manner that's both hilarious and pretty cool, saying, "What the hell is cosplay?" And it's here that the Easter egg hits, as it's not actually that Clive wouldn't know about cosplay, seeing as this is, his actual life that's being mocked, but it's because Ben Starr famously dressed up as Tifa to show his love for the franchise, which went mega viral online, making this a double-layered Easter egg that left fans on both levels smirking to themselves. Number 7, Liberty Falls Bowling, Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is one of the better recent entries into the blockbuster FPS franchise, and it sure didn't hurt that it featured a secret bowling minigame. The Zombies map Liberty Falls contains 5 pairs of bowling shoes hidden around it, and if you shoot each pair, they'll disappear, followed by an audio cue. And once you've found all 5 pairs, you'll be transported to a neon bowling alley and can begin the bowling minigame immediately. But to be clear, you're not supposed to hit the bowling pins. You're actually getting points for knocking down the many dancing zombies who are strewn across the lanes. While you can net rewards for your bowling prowess, this is really just a fun way to break up the potential monotony of the zombies experience. Fingers crossed that future Call of Duty titles experiment with other undead sports minigames. Zombie volleyball, anyone? Sign me up. Number 6, Devil Dice. Astro Bot. In addition to being one of the best platformers of the decade, Astro Bot also features a veritable treasure trove of Easter eggs, given the innumerable collectibles that players can find that look back at the 3 decades of PlayStation history. But perhaps the single most unexpected Easter egg in a game jam-packed with them is the surprise cameo by the little devil from cult favourite PS1 puzzle game Devil Dice. Released in 1998, this distinctive puzzler cast players as the little devil as he runs around a grid filled with huge dice, and the goal here was to match up adjacent dice to clear them from the room. In Astro Bot's brilliant slow-mo casino stage, players who scour every inch of the level will find a secret room filled with giant dice, just like Devil Dice. Sadly, you're not invited to play a round of actual Devil Dice though. You can just run across the dice and they'll just recede into the ground, revealing a bot wearing the distinctive little devil costume. Oh, isn't he sweet? Given that Devil Dice swiftly evaporated from the cultural conversation despite selling over 1 million copies, it was a genuine Leo pointing at the TV moment when this little fella showed up. Number 5. Eve Stares Back, Stellar Blade. You can bet your bottom dollar that people are gonna get weird about any third-person video game starring a scantily dressed woman, and the recent Stellar Blade is certainly no exception. But hilariously, developers Shift Up anticipated that gutter-brained players might spend a while oogling the protagonist and so thought about making fun of them for it. As swathes of players swiftly discovered during release week, if you spend too long gawking at Eve in-game without actually moving her, she'll suddenly turn and stare right back at you. Furthermore, if you move the camera to try and avert her gaze, it'll follow you wherever you go. That is definitely one way to make players self-conscious about their slack-jawed perving, though it's certainly more polite than Nier Automata, potato, which hilariously and quite rightly punishes players by looking up 2B's skirt by unlocking the trophy called What Are You Doing? Number 4. Greedo's Missed Shot, Star Wars Outlaws. There was never really any reality where Star Wars Outlaws didn't feature a metric frac-ton of Easter eggs pouring over its own legacy. But the best part of the lot? Well, it's got to be that reference to one of the most contentious moments in the entire Star Wars canon. While exploring Tatooine in the game, you're of course duty-bound to pay a visit to Mos Eisley Cantina, and if you do, you can even go and hang out at the very booth where Han Solo famously shot Greedo to death in the very first Star Wars film. Moreover, an NPC sat at the booth will be warned by another about a superstition where anyone who sits there gets shot, and to hammer home the point even further, the scorch mark from where Greedo fired at and missed Han Solo is still visible on the wall. Evidently, the disgrace of Greedo shooting first is very much alive and well in Star Wars, much as fans will loathe it forevermore. Still, it's a fun nod to how that fateful incident in the cantina has become quite the legend in the area. Number 3. Failed Rewind, Life is Strange Double Exposure. Life is Strange Double Exposure was a wildly polarizing game among the fanbase, but it did kick off with one deeply amusing Easter egg. In the original Life is Strange, protagonist Max of course has the ability to rewind time. But a decade later in Double Exposure, she's unable to access this power after deciding not to use it years earlier. But naturally, curious players couldn't help but try anyway, and so if you attempt to rewind time in the opening moments of the game by pressing the respective button, Max will call you out for it. The first time, Max will respectfully remind you that her rewind ability hasn't worked in years, but if you do it again, she'll take a more blunt tone and tell you to focus on the here and now. As developer foresight goes, this is a pretty fun way to acknowledge how Max's life and consequently the player's experience has changed between games. Number 2. Shenmue Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. The Like a Dragon franchise basically feels like the modern spiritual successor to the Shenmue series, and so it's all too fitting that the recent Infinite Wealth has a delicious Easter egg tipping its hat towards Sega's legendary action-adventure titles. Earlier in Infinite Wealth, you can listen to a podcast where one of the podcasters will mention that a young man approached him at the harbour and asked him where the sailors hang out. The podcaster adds that the man asked everyone else in the vicinity about sailors while mentioning that he wore a distinctive leather jacket with a tiger emblem on it, and also embarked on various other missions while engaging the locals at length. This is all very obviously referencing Shenmue's protagonist Ryo and some of the more iconic maneuvers that he went on in the original game. Given the likelihood that Shenmue 4 never actually materializes, it's at least comforting for fans to know that people at Sega are still thinking about that franchise. And number 1, the Rick Roll, Helldivers 2. And finally, finally, we have one of the buzziest, most unexpected gaming phenoms of the entire year, the brilliant Helldivers 2. And this fiendishly addictive multiplayer shooter delivered the one thing that most of us haven't actually thought about in many moons, and that is a damn Rick roll. That's right, within a single day of the game's release, players who scrubbed through Helldivers 2 config files found a link for a YouTube URL, which led them to a video of Rick Astley's iconic troll-worthy pop hit, Never Gonna Give You Up. It's nothing if not a testament to the enduring power of the Rick roll, which first came to prominence more than 15 years ago. Do you feel old yet? I do, every day. Sadly, because we can't have nice things though, Helldivers 2 eventually received a patch which removed the Rickroll link from the game's config file, replacing it with a note from the developer simply reading, "Legal forced me to remove the placeholder." Boo. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 of the greatest Easter eggs hidden in recent video games. I hope that you enjoyed that, and let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. And also, while you're there, have a think about what you pick for the exact moment that you realized a game that you were playing absolutely sucked. And I'll be picking one of those comments to make into a full-fledged entry in next week's video. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Blue Sky, where I'm at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, and I hope to see you over there, my friends. And I hope you treat yourself with love and respect, because you deserve the best in life. Alright? Don't let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, you massive ledge. Now go out there and smash it. I believe in you. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.